Hello everyone, Kasim Khan is here. Please subscribe my channel and press bell button for more updates. So guys, thank you so much for watching my video, and today we are going to learn a part 3 of interest rate, that is determinants of market interest rates. This is a very important concept in the interest rate. What are the determinants, how it can affect on the interest rate. So the interest rate quoted on any debt security is composed of a real risk-free rate R star plus several premium that reflect inflation. The security risk is its liquidity or marketability and the years to its maturity. So this relationship can be expressed as follows. Quoted interest rate is equal to R. R is you can also denote with this I, but most of the book publisher and the writer denote it R. So R is equal to R star plus IP plus DRP plus LP plus MRP. So these are the determinants of your interest rate. What is R star? We will explain in the next slide in very detail. IP is your inflation premium, DRP is your default risk premium, LP is your liquidity premium, MRP is your maturity risk premium. So there are so many risks which are associated with your security, and to cover that risk, you need to like give a different kinds of the premium. You need to consider those premium to minimize the रिस्क एसोसिएटेड विद दैट सिक्योरिटी। आपकी जो सिक्योरिटी होती है उसके ऊपर जब भी कोई आपके कोटेड रेट होता है तो वो कोटेड रेट बहुत सारे डिटर्मिनेंट्स को कंसीडर कर होता है। तो जब लैंडर किसी को भी मनी लैंड करता है या किसी भी सिक्योरिटी में इन्वेस्ट करता है तो वो इन डिटर्मिनेंट्स को कंसीडर करता है। वाई ही नीड्स टू कंसीडर दीज डिटर्मिनेंट्स, क्योंकि डिफरेंट काइंड्स नेचर की जो है सिक्योरिटीज होती हैं तो उनके ऊपर डिफरेंट फैक्टर इफेक्ट कर रहे होते हैं, और उनके साथ जो अनसर्टेनिटी और रिस्क एसोसिएटेड होते हैं। टू मिनिमाइज देयर इफेक्ट द इन्वेस्टर एंड द लैंडर नीड टू कंसीडर दोज डिटर्मिनेंट्स, और अगर वो उन डिटर्मिनेंट्स को कंसीडर नहीं करता तो अल्टीमेटली इट विल इफेक्ट द रेट ऑफ रिटर्न ऑन दैट सिक्योरिटी। सो अब हम जो है ना डिटेल में पढ़ते हैं कि हाउ we need to why we need to consider these kind of determinants at the time of lending. So the first one is what is the required rate of return? Required rate of return is basically the nominal rate of return an investor requires to make an investment worthwhile. Obviously, this rate is the expected rate the investor need to the investor are expecting on their investments, or every investor take interested to take a high rate of return on their investment. So this required rate of return made up of three components. The first one is risk-free rate, real risk-free rate. The second one is inflation premium. The third one is risk premium. So what is real risk-free rate? Free rate of return, which is denoted with the R star. So R star is the minimum rate of return an investor requires. This rate does not take into account expected inflation. So आर स्टार होता क्या और हम कैसे इसको एक्सप्लेन करते हैं। आर स्टार बेसिकली आपका रियल रिस्क रेट होता है जो कि आपका इक्वल होता है, या मोस्टली जो आपकी टी बिल्स के ऊपर जो रेट होता है उसको आप कोट करते हैं। टी बिल्स क्या होते हैं? हर कंट्री के अंदर एक सेंट्रल बैंक होता है, जैसे पाकिस्तान में स्टेट बैंक है, इंडिया में जो है ना सेंट्रल बैंक ऑफ इंडिया है। So every state bank issue some kinds of security that is known as T-bills, T-notes. उनके ऊपर जो रेट कोटेड होता है, मिनिमम रेट जो होता है वो हमारा क्या होता है, रियल रेट ऑफ रिटर्न होता है, जो कि आपके गवर्नमेंट बॉडी या एक गवर्नमेंट बैंक जो है किसी सिक्योरिटी के ऊपर दे रहा होता है। तो आर स्टार इज इक्वल टू द टी बिल रेट एंड माइनस द इन्फ्लेशन प्रीमियम। अब क्या है कि रियल रिस्क फ्री रेट आर स्टार होता है, वो सिर्फ रेट ऑफ रिटर्न टी बिल को कंसीडर कर रहा होता है विद द एक्सपेक्टेशन ऑफ जीरो इन्फ्लेशन इन दैट सोसाइटी। आपका रियल रेट जो होगा उसमें वो उस वक्त इन्फ्लेशन को क्या करेगा, ज़ीरो कंसीडर करेगा, जो कि रियल लाइफ में इन्फ्लेशन कभी भी ज़ीरो नहीं होती। इवन आपके डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज़ में भी 2 to 3% इन्फ्लेशन होती है। तो अगर आपकी सोसाइटी में 2 to 3% इन्फ्लेशन है और एज आफ्टर दैट दिस रेट आर स्टार आप जो है उस इन्फ्लेशन रेट को एज इन्फ्लेशन प्रीमियम ऐड कर लेंगे, तो आफ्टर दैट यूर सिक्योरिटी विल बी कन्वर्टेड इनटू रिस्क फ्री सिक्योरिटी. So, how changes in R star? R star is equal to the T bill rate minus the inflation premium. What is inflation? Inflation is generally the general rise in the prices of product. So definition loss in purchasing power of money because of increase in the prices. You know, when the prices of the product increases, ultimately your purchasing power of power will be decreases over the time period. You will buy less products with the same amount. As inflation increases, every dollar we own buys a smaller percentage of goods and services. So when the inflation will increase, at that time your purchasing power will decreases and you will buy less products. Why is inflation premium given? Yes, inflation premium is very important, and we need to consider whenever the lender will invest the money, he must need to consider the inflation. If he will not consider the inflation, ultimately its return will be maybe affected, because with the passage of time, inflation exists and inflation rises, your the value of your return will decrease if you will not take the inflation premium, and if you will not consider the inflation premium in your rate of return, ultimately your return will decrease over the time period. So impact of inflation on T-bills and corporate securities. So inflation effect your T securities and corporate securities as well. And if you incorporate the inflation effect in your rate of return, then your security will be converted into risk-free rate. So what is risk-free rate? R into RF, RF representing risk-free is equal to R star. R star is your real rate of return which has been issued by the central bank on their securities, plus IP is your inflation premium. Inflation premium, every society has some rate of inflation, and you basically add that inflation rate, expected inflation rate in your security. सो जब आप अपने इन्फ्लेशन एक्सपेक्टेड इन्फ्लेशन के रेट को ऐड कर लेंगे, तो उसके बाद क्या हो जाएगा कि आपका इन्फ्लेशन का रिस्क ज़ीरो हो जाएगा, एंड योर सिक्योरिटी विल बी कन्वर्टेड इनटू रिस्क फ्री सिक्योरिटी. So it is the quoted rate on a risk-free security such as T-bills, and it includes a premium for expected inflation. So उसके बाद ये होगा कि inflation will not hurt your returns, and your security inflation risk will be zero, and your security will be converted into risk-free rate security. So what is the difference between the real risk-free interest rate and the risk-free interest rate? Real risk-free interest rate is when there is a zero inflation in the society, and your security is giving you the interest rate that is equivalent to the central bank security interest rate. Here you can say that T-bills, T securities interest rate. And what is the risk-free interest rate? When you include the inflation premium in your security return, and after that your security will be converted into risk-free security. So what are the other risk premiums which are associated with your rate of return, and you must need to consider when you invest, when you lend the money? What is the default risk premium? Default risk premium, obviously, first we read this definition. This premium reflects the possibility that the issuer will not pay the promised interest or principal at the stated time. So most of the organization get default over the time period. No one knows what will be the situation of the company, what will be the position of the company after 10 years, 20 years. No one knows about the future. बहुत बड़ी बड़ी कंपनीज भी डिफॉल्ट हो जाती है. नोकिया जैसी कंपनी फ्लॉप हो गई, सेम लाइक जीरोक्स हो गई, आपकी याहू हो गई, एनरॉन हो गई. बड़ी बड़ी कंपनी, बड़े बड़े प्लेयर जो है मार्केट में डिफॉल्ट हो जाते हैं. सो यू नीड टू कंसीडर दिस रिस्क एज वेल. अगर आपकी सिक्योरिटी बहुत ज़्यादा लॉन्ग टर्म है, तो यू नीड टू कंसीडर दिस फैक्टर एज वेल. तो अगर आपकी सिक्योरिटी, इफ़ यू बाय द टी बिल्स, तो ऑब्वियसली टी बिल्स क्या किस कौन इशू करता है? वो आपके सेंट्रल बैंक इशू करता है, तो उसमें आपका डीआरपी ज़ीरो होगा. उसमें ज़ीरो क्यों होगा कि जो आपके सेंट्रल बैंक्स होते हैं, गवर्नमेंट्स होते हैं, वो कभी भी डिफ़ॉल्ट नहीं करती। मैक्सिमम क्या होगा, अगर उनके पास शॉर्टेज ऑफ फंड्स होगी तो वो मनी प्रिंटिंग से जो है ना दोबारा पैसा प्रिंट करके लोगों को वापस कर देंगे। So DRP will be always zero in the T-bills, T-securities, and the securities issued by the central bank and the government bodies and the government banks. So treasury securities have a no chance of default. Hence, DRP is not paid on them. So for corporate bonds, higher the bonds rating, lower its default risk, and lower will be the interest rate. So for the corporation bond, their rating has been issued by the many financial companies. So if the company have a higher bond rating, and obviously when the company have a good financial position, there are less chances for the company to be default in the future. So ultimately, you need to you need to charge the low interest rate on the high bond rating companies. So if the company is in a good position and the company have a less chances to be default in the future, then DRP will be decreased. DRP decrease, and you will charge less DRP premium, and ultimately your interest rate will also decreases at that time. LP liquidity premium. What is liquidity? How easily your security is converted into cash at reasonable price. What is liquid asset? An asset that can be converted to cash quickly at a fair market value. So, how easily your cash security is convertible into cash, that is known as the liquidity. Liquidity premium is added to ROI, return on investment, on securities that are not liquid. So you also consider this premium as well, because if your T-bills, treasury securities are very liquid, because these securities are issued by the central banks of the country, and these are easily tradable and saleable in the market. So their liquidity premium always will be almost equal to zero. But in corporate securities, some companies are not well renowned in the market, and their securities are not easily saleable in the market as well. At that time, you need to consider this risk, and you charge some liquidity premium on that, on the conversion rate, on the conversion possibility. So it depends upon in what kind of company and security you have been invested. So according to that rating and the fame and the goodwill, you charge the liquidity premium on your investment. So what is MRP? MRP is maturity risk premium. So first we need to define here longer term bonds, even T bonds are exposed to a significant risk of price decline due to increases in interest rate, and a maturity risk premium is charged by a lender to reflect the interest rate risk. So MRP is paid to cover interest rate risk. So what is MRP, maturity risk premium? आपकी जो securities होती हैं, bonds होते हैं, they have a very longer time period, like 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. So when there is a longer time period exists in their maturity, there are so many risks associated with that security. No one can precisely define and estimate the inflation rate for 30 years. No one can identify precisely the interest rate of any securities of any country for next 20 years. So there is always maturity risk premium exist and associated with the society, with the security. So over the time period, interest rates are dynamic and volatile, and they change. So when there is a longer maturity time period, at that time you will charge higher maturity risk premium. If there is a short, if the maturity time period is short for the security, then your MRP will decrease it. So MRP is paid to cover interest rate risk. So interest rate risk, the risk of capital losses to which investors are exposed because of changing interest rate. Obviously, your investment, your interest rate risk is associated with the long-term maturity of the security, and you will always charge the maturity risk premium when you will lend the money to someone. So it was all about the determinants which are associated with the interest rate. And thank you so much for watching my video. Take care, stay happy, stay blessed. Bye bye. Take care.